Good day everyone, I am Michael, the moderator for this webinar. I welcome everyone for today's webinar, which is FDA FSMA Preventive Controls, Cross-Contact and Contact Contamination Allergens. It's a great privilege for me to introduce our presenter for today, Dr. John Wren. Dr. John Wren is the president of wrensystems.com and holds a PhD in Research and Statistical Methods. I would now like to hand over the floor to the speaker. Over to you, John.
All right, thanks, Michael. Thanks for attending today, folks. We're going to do 3 or 4 major sections. I'm going to go through preventive controls and validation of preventive controls, cross-contact, allergens, and cross-contamination. The goal is for you to be able to stop contaminants from flowing through your food processes, and that includes everything from the supplier through to your customer. Okay, so what are we going to talk about? Allergen controls under the preventive control rules. The difference between cross-contamination and cross-contact. I'm going to talk about the entire supply chain, farms, processing, all the way through trailers and containers and beyond. I'll talk about hazard analysis, sanitation, supplier qualification, packaging, and labeling. All of these are involved somewhere, somehow, in the transmission of bacteria and allergens. Okay, let's look at food safety system costs a little bit. Company's going to spend around $1,800 taking care of these little issues here. Some things you don't need to validate. Hazardous adulteration, impact to human health, potential to cause death, bacteria, chemical and physical adulterants, allergens, cross-contact, and cross-contamination. We're going to talk a lot about that. Okay, everybody has to do a hazard evaluation. So these are the types of things you need to consider in a hazard evaluation. So what are high-risk foods? Some foods are higher risk than others. You can find out by going to the CDC and looking at the food outbreak history. You can also look at Codex, and then you can also go to the library or do internet-related research. I want to talk about corrective action versus preventive action, okay? Recalls, for instance. So we talk about process designs and then validation of the process. In verification, you're walking around looking at, is the process set up the way it should be? Okay, validation and verification. Hazards are adulterants, biological, chemical, and physical. That the control measures as a whole is capable of effectively controlling the identified hazards. Validation means you must prove you have implemented an effective food safety program, not just complying with the rules. Your outcome variables are 0 or showing continuous improvement. Let's talk about environmental monitoring a little bit. Environmental pathogen is a pathogen capable of surviving and persisting within the manufacturing, processing, packing, or holding environment, records of calibration, testing, etc. You must validate that the preventive controls identified and implemented when necessary demonstrate that control measures are designed. Sanitation controls, what comprise of major controls. Sanitation basics include disinfecting, sanitizing. Some of these things, when you use them, you have to use them within the label specs, okay? You can't hide them. The feds have access. It's a law now. Any kind of carriers need to be clean. Okay, validation includes evaluating scientific and technical evidence. If the data doesn't show the improvement, you must validate that the preventive controls identified and implemented. You've got these 2 levels. It's a different concept than, let's talk about supply chains a little bit. You have a supply chain program, and so you have to prevent the bad stuff from coming into you. There's 33 different sections intended to establish what food receivers must do to comply. You have to document that they're. So what's an approved supplier? They have to follow good storage and transportation practices. They're the lowest risk supplier, and so that's the ones you want to work with. The receiving facility must approve and use only approved suppliers. You're also a supplier, right? Talk about cross-contamination now. Okay, cross-contamination is the physical movement or transfer of harmful bacteria from one person, object, or place to another and resides on supermarket shelves. Let's look at cross-contamination on farms. Cross-contaminating product in the packing house, okay? And so they keep washing dirty product and they put clean product in the dirty. There are many ways for containers and foods to become contaminated, but little attention is paid to controlling one source of contamination from getting into or onto the next product to inhabit containers used to move food through the supply. Talk about sanitation a little bit because types of food and soils and biofilms. In addition, you have to look at surface composition and condition, etc. Bins and etc. etc. Here's some more. Some sources of cross-contamination. Talk about cross-contact, allergen issues. 8 foods account for 90% of all food allergic reactions in the U.S. Impact of eating allergens depends on health, storage, and handling of clean portable equipment. Cross-contact is the inadvertent introduction of an allergen into a product. Manufacturing. Failure to disinfect after running process with allergen. The Consumer Protection Act of 2004, some preventive control forms. All right, well, thanks for attending today and hope to see you in another webinar.
Thank you, John. So that does conclude the session for today. Thank you everyone for participating. You may all disconnect now. Have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Michael.